Hey, you're listening to Tech Talks with Lou, and I'm Lou Temlett. I hope you're having a good day, and I'm really thankful for you listening. So, this is Tech Talks with Lou, the show in which I discuss the top tech secrets for success from the best in today's digital world. Last time, I spoke with Dr. Jo Watkins, a GP, business mentor and mum, and she is on a mission to build self-esteem and confidence in young teenagers to follow their own unique path in life. If you haven't already listened, head back after this episode and let me know what you think. My guest today is a serial social entrepreneur and has a 30-year career across a whole range of industries, and for the past 6 years has been working in the field of neurodiversity. I'd like to welcome Lucy Smith to my podcast. Hi Lucy, how are you?
Hi there, I'm doing okay.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Are you having a good day?
Just about.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Just about.
I've had some good news today, so I'm doing pretty okay. But I can't share the good news. No, I'm afraid.
Lucy.
Yeah, there's an NDA in place. Those kind of things.
Lucy is a fantastic individual and self-identifying. Is this correct, Lucy? As neurodiverse. Lucy has a great deal of skill and ability, mostly 24 hours a day, and she spins up all sorts of things, and there's always fantastic things that are happening that she doesn't always talk about and reveal to the masses. But Lucy has, fantastic ups as far as I can see on your...
Yeah, I can't believe each day sometimes, because I start the day. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I started the day yesterday thinking I've got a day of admin. I've got a report to write about a grant evaluation, about our work experience program. That needs to be done. And I'm not doing anything else until I actually finish that, because otherwise I won't get it done, because I'll procrastinate and do lots of other things and find anything else to substitute it. By the end of the day, I had done the report. I did finish the report. But by the end of the day, I've had a conversation with a local college about setting up an app and a platform about a particular thing that I don't want to say on air yet, but it's so supremely exciting that, yes, so my world goes in very different ways sometimes.
Thank you for sharing that, Lucy. We will keep your confidentiality and allow you to share that in due course. But I introduced you with a 30-year career prior to working for the last 6 years in the field of neurodiversity. So tell us a bit about the 30 years prior to your awareness.
I reflected on this morning, actually. And I thought the things I have done in my 30 years. So the predominant part of my career I spent in the civil service, in the Home Office, but as a law enforcement officer. And so I worked in areas of intelligence and investigation and incredibly exciting stuff, which, again, I can't always talk about. But supremely exciting, I must say. That just gives everybody that little bait, doesn't it? That it's like, oh, we want to find out more. So I worked in law enforcement, and I spent time in places like the National Crime Agency and Her Majesty's Customs and Excise when I started. That's how long ago it was. It was still called HM Customs and Excise and the Inland Revenue. Now it's HMRC, isn't it? So I spent a lot of my career doing that. But prior to that, I've done a number of different things, and I still always had a bit of a side hustle, even when I was working for 16 years in that career. So lots of different things, from being a fairy to, this is the bit that I reflected on this morning. I was like, people sometimes think about jobs and are like, well, I want to get paid this and I want to get paid that. Actually, just 5 years ago, I was writing blogs for a penny a word. I'd left in fact, it wasn't even 5 years ago. It was less than 5 years ago. I had left my job, my permanent job, or my proper job at the University of Bristol for family reasons, really. And I needed to find work, and I needed to just do some work to pay the bills. And I was blogging for a penny a word. So that's the kind of things I kind of have been involved in. Like I say, I've been a fairy. I've been a waitress. I served the Queen a breakfast once. I never told you that, have I?
No, you haven't. How how did you manage that? And what did she have for breakfast?
In bed. She had breakfast in bed served by moi when she visited a military base in Germany. That I was a waitress in the officers' mess, and I got the opportunity to make her breakfast for her.
Oh wow! Okay, you don't have to tell us, but I imagine a boiled egg with some soldiers.
Almost toast cut into triangles with lime marmalade and Earl Grey tea.
Oh, that sounds very delightful.
Yeah.
I might try that this week.
Talk about it.
Okay, this is why there is some awareness of neurodiversity in the mix. So tell us how you had the understanding around the concept and the reality of neurodiversity and what it means.
Okay, so I, believe it or not, I grew up in a neurodivergent family, but I didn't realize it. I thought that I was just that was just normal. My uncle, who I lived with, was about 7 years older than me, and I lived with him and my grandmother and my mum at that time in the 70s. And I thought that was just normality. I would go to all the different groups and clubs with him and meet all the different people with different brains and different ways of experiencing the world. Then I grew up and I didn't really think that much of it. And then I had children. And at the age of 11, we were told that my eldest child, she was autistic. And so that kind of span our world around, because we had no concept at all that they were autistic, and that was the reason for the challenges that they were having, which were, significant anxiety and mental health challenges, etc., etc. So at that point, you kind of throw yourself into, as you do, a hyper focus and a bit of a special interest of finding out everything I could about being an autistic girl and what that means. And so I really did. And the first way in which I kind of tapped into that world of neurodiversity was I found an organization called The Girl with the Curly Hair, which is headed up by Alice Rowe, who's an autistic author, content creator, just general Wonder Woman. She's an Olympic weightlifter, which I used to think until fairly recently was that she was in the Olympics weightlifting. No, it's apparently a sport. So who knew? So,
yes, it is a sport. Coming from a sport of a martial arts thing, you never know. Lucy, I want to just pause and have a conversation around a child being diagnosed at 11. Now, I've heard of children being diagnosed at the age of 3 or 4 or 5. Is 11 quite a regular age to have some diagnosis with autism?
Interestingly, historically, I would have said no, and it is actually classed as a late diagnosis. So let's go into some of the history and let's just a little bit unpick around diagnostic criteria and research and evidence and the way we got to where we are today.
Yeah.
Many girls in particular will not have had a diagnosis of autism because diagnostic criteria are based on boys, and generally what you will find is that boys will show behaviours at a much younger age, and it will be considered that we'll look at autism because he's a boy, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Girls, on the other hand, there are differences in the ways in which girls behave, and so a girl who's introverted and likes horses a lot may very well be considered, that's just typical, isn't it? That's just, that's just normal behavior. But actually then you start to unpick things and you start seeing things unravel. And what happens is children in their preteens and teenage years are struggling with mental health issues and are struggling with, and this is how we got to this point, that my daughter was struggling with anxiety and suicidal ideation and actually attempted at a very young age. So I'm sorry, because it goes deep. I go deep very quickly. I'm okay to talk about this, so I hope that you are. That happened at a very young age, and in order to find out more and support her, we went to those people who could give the help and support. So you think, and it was at that point that somebody said she's autistic, and that was a bit of a shock and a surprise. And that 11 year, that age of 11. There are an absolute ton of kids in schools right now who are undiagnosed. Their needs are not being met. Neurodiversity in terms of ADHD, autism dyslexia, I meet students who are at university who tell me regularly, I didn't get diagnosed until I went to university.
Wow.
And so their diagnosis comes from university because lecturers are noticing, well, this work is brilliant, but it makes no sense at all. So, let's talk about dyslexia, and let's put you through a screening process. And at university, they have that ability to go through that process.
Okay. But if anyone's listening to this, then I want to say reach out to Lucy. You don't have to wait until university years. If there are any questions and there's parents that want to ask questions, I'll put Lucy's contact details in the show notes. I just want to kind of put that in there, Lucy.
Yeah, no problem. I can signpost to places. But the first place to go for everyone is your GP. Okay, so first place is GP. And I can put a plug in here for the Hub of Hope. If you've not found the Hub of Hope, just Google Hub of Hope and it will come up. And it's a fantastic website with lots of support groups and lots of places that you can go to find support. So you can type in what you're looking for and your postcode, and it will come up with those groups that can help you in that area.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Lucy. Ready to develop your leadership style? Well, LouTech offers a leadership package just for you. As an entrepreneur, you often need to pitch ideas, negotiate deals, and market your products and services. The MBTI assessment can provide valuable insights into how you naturally approach these tasks. By understanding your inherent strengths and preferred methods of communication, you can tailor your strategies to resonate with your target audience and achieve more favourable outcomes. I have over 15 years delivering feedback and helping individuals develop their leadership style. Book your session today at www.loutech.co.uk/leadership. You're listening to Tech Talks with Lou, and I'm Lou Temlett. And today I'm talking with Lucy Smith, founder and director of Inclusive Change. Now, Lucy, this is a tech podcast, and I know you have kind of systems and processes and have used technology to support your business. Tell me a bit more about that, as well as kind of dipping a bit lightly back to your own understanding of neurodiversity and your own behaviours in the mix.
There's a lot of questions in there, you.
Come on, keep up, Lucy.
It takes me 10 minutes to answer one question. If you ask me 3 at once, you'll never get a word in. Oh my goodness! Right, okay.
Go.
So, in terms of neurodiversity, right? Let's go back to Inclusive Change, and let me tell you what we do at Inclusive Change, which is essentially I help people understand more about neurodiversity so we can have better success in the workplace. That's for everyone. I want to build the future of work with neurodiversity in mind. Cheesy, I know. I've been saying it for 4 years. People haven't caught on to it yet, but that's what I'm saying that we want to do. Build the future of work.
That's your mission. That's your mission.
Yes. Good. It means sometimes working with people who are existing in the workplace. So people who are neurodivergent in the workplace and might need support, or their leaders and their managers and their colleagues providing training and support in that way. It can also mean talking to schools and young people and helping them understand how they can advocate for themselves and how they can thrive in the workplace. So what supports are there, what reasonable adjustments might be in place, those kind of things. So there's a whole range of stuff that I do. One of the ways that I do this, because I've figured out I've got a lot of knowledge in this head, right? And I want to get it out to people, right? I just want to get it out to people, but I can't do it on a one-to-one basis anymore because I'm not reaching enough people. And so I want to reach as many people as possible with as much useful information as possible, because let's face it, the internet, all right, there's a Wild West out there. It's not called a www for nothing. It's like the Wild West, all right?
Love that. Love that, Lucy.
Because there is a whole load of tosh out there. There's a whole load of stuff where you can go down rabbit holes. And the next thing you know, you're feeding your kids something disgusting because you think that's going to fix them. Utter rubbish, right? However, one of the ways in which I want to get information out to people is through things like courses, online courses, being able to click a button so you can access information. And I do this at Inclusive Change. I have an academy. I have a champions network. So we have a network that we have online, and I use tech to make that happen. because believe me, running that, managing the emails, managing the contacts, get it on automation if you can. If you can automate it, that leaves the world free to hear from me, and anything that I need to do is about my brain and my face. That's it. And we can automate everything else. So I use a product at the moment called Techmatics. Techmatics is something that's, I think it's fairly new in the UK. So the lady that set it up is a lady called Sarah Cordner. She's over in Australia, but she is British and she comes from the Southwest. Amazing, right? This woman, I'm not going to say she's got ADHD, right? But this woman is like, you watch her talk and it's just so much information, and she does so much and captures it all. And she has processes and systems and tech in place that helps somebody who may have ADHD keep it all together. It's just amazing. It's just a fantastic way for me, if I have got ADHD. And so I explore this, but being somebody who may be neurodivergent, we don't like to say we have got it or have something unless we have a diagnosis, and unless somebody's given us permission to say that and validated us. But enough people have spoken to me that have said, maybe you should go and have a chat. Maybe you should explore it.
I love that conversation, Lucy, because I get the same comments from you, believe it or not. when we're both off doing different things and achieving things that some people don't consider achieving or setting their mind to do. And then we've done it before we've finished the conversation usually.
Set up a radio station at a weekend. Of course I can do that, not a problem. Doing that with you, no problem at all.
Okay, so I've been very lucky to attend a 3-week course, 3 separate days.
Not 3 whole weeks. It's not 3.
Not 3 whole weeks. 3 days. 3 sessions. Talking about understanding neurodiversity for organisations. And I was very privileged to meet some of your guest speakers, Ileana Mullins and
Daniel
Biddle. We will name check them and link them in this episode. But they have their own unique stories, and just to be able to share their view and their experience of neurodiversity and disability within the mix. And one of the big things that I took away from the last session, Lucy, was about treating each individual as an individual rather than putting something on offer that is for everyone. Because
our ADHD program is this. Our autistic program is this. No, individuals, please.
And I really started to shift my mindset with regards to thinking about classifying conditions or whatever. Maybe like you, Lucy, I don't like being put into a box and being told that I'm one thing or another, because I'll go and then jump in another box and then do another thing, so that I can't be classified as one thing or another. Hence also my Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast. And if you haven't listened to that, go and have a little listen. But that was an idea that then spun up within the space of a couple of days. So thinking about the individualism and any of the neurodiverse things, how do you best support? And obviously it's on an individual basis, but that combination that, inclusive change supports. And maybe I'm skipping over because my mind's running at 100 miles an hour. You also shared the strengths and challenges of self-diagnosing as neurodiverse.
Anybody. Right. So let's go back to a bit of basics. All right. Neurodiversity. What does it mean? What is it? Okay. Neurodiversity. The concept and the paradigm is that actually we're all different. We all have different ways of experiencing the world. We all have brains that should be valued, and no brain should be worse or better off than others. However, there are some people who have different conditions that will mean that they process the world in a different way and may need some support in workplaces, in schools, in daily life. And they will be different in different ways, okay? And so neurodiversity for me is about everyone, but that I don't want to diminish people who have needs and need support in the workplace. That I will not diminish that, and I will absolutely accept that most autistic people will benefit from support within the workplace. That might be things like coaching, mentoring. That might be things like auxiliary aids to help manage information or support with diary bookings and diary managements and things like that. Could also be things to help around socializing.
Yep.
But neurodiversity is about us all. And we can all do well to consider what our strengths are and what our challenges are in the workplace. But I don't want to go down the route of, oh, well, I know how challenging it is to be a parent. Yes, you do, but you don't know how challenging it is to be a parent who may very well have ADHD themselves, who's also parenting neurodivergent children. And that in itself is, wow, that's we need support in those kind of, in the workplace around that kind of topic.
Yeah. Do carry on, because I think, you've given one example there, an ADHD parent with ADHD children. You could imagine all the mix and match of the individuals that you may well be dealing with. And that's vast. And you can't necessarily treat one person with the kind of care and consideration that another might need. Very different needs and kind of support that is required.
Yeah, and it's worthwhile asking, how can I support you? And so, I've had a conversation today with a parent who is, I don't know how to get the support I need in work. And it's not for them, it's for their children.
Yeah.
And so as an employer or as a line manager, how can I best support you? But being open, and also, so here's one of the big challenges that we have, right? There's a whole range of, or a whole lot of late diagnosed or undiagnosed people in the workplace right now, all right? Men and women, non-binary, gender fluid, they're out there, right? A lot of those people will not yet know what could make their life better. What could improve their working life or their home life as well.
Yeah.
And as a result, quite a lot of companies and organizations need to start thinking about, how do we get that information? How do we support our employees? And one of those big questions is, how do we help them in understanding what they don't know yet? That's a really convoluted way of me saying it.
Yep.
But if you're a late diagnosed neurodivergent person, you've had a whole life of building up strategies that might not be helpful for you and have led you to a place where you might be masking, you might be having a mental health crisis, your boundaries aren't being managed, you're not looking after yourself physically, you're in a performance management issue in work. How the heck do you overcome all this stuff when you don't know what you don't know yet? And you've literally been existing and trying to manage the world in the way that you do. And it isn't until somebody says, oh, but you're autistic, or, oh, you've got ADHD, that you go, oh, well, that explains everything. That explains why everybody else seems to be having a good old whale of a time and I'm just struggling here.
I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head with that one, if that's an acceptable term. Just in terms of understanding the individual differences and the preferences, and knowing that what we've been doing might not be, I don't want to say not normal, but not as energetic, and you're not feeling quite right. I know when I'm in optimum health and kind of work life, I'm wanting to get up in the morning. I'm energized about getting on with my day. But I know that there have been a number of days where I haven't felt like that. But the norm outweighs the peak of, living life to its full.
Yeah.
And maybe that's some of the recognition as well, or the recognizable behaviors and kind of attitudes and thoughts around it not being quite right.
There's that, and we're conditioned. So society and social norms condition us to, well, we must be like this, or we need to do this, and this is what everybody else is doing. And so I'm not doing that. Yeah, maybe I should be. And so then you do it, and then you go, but that makes me feel really uncomfortable, and I really, really hate it. And please don't make me do it anymore. Yeah, and that can have a massive impact on somebody's mental health. In terms of late diagnosis, for instance, it's really empowering to be able to recognize who you are. And I have had on more than one occasion somebody tell me, I have never had somebody in front of me validate my existence before. So this is training, for instance, this is training that I did with the Girly Air Project, which was a couple of years ago. I remember this one. A woman in one of the face-to-face sessions I did said at the end, I've never had anyone validate my existence before. Thank you, because now I know that I am a successful autistic female and not a failing neurotypical.
Wow. That's pretty impactful. Even you saying that and it not being in this moment, it happened some time ago, but recalling that story, having that acceptance. And I also want to kind of raise the point about feeling comfortable to self-diagnose. A number of us feel very comfortable when we have an accredited person, a doctor, a GP, someone with letters after their name that can go, yep, that's this condition, or that's that, and you identify as that. But actually to empower yourself to self-diagnose, it sounds like it's I
would say I'm not sure about the word self-diagnose myself. Okay. I would say self-identification.
Okay, so self-identify, I get that.
Yeah, if we go down that route of diagnosis, look, there are reasons why psychologists, clinical psychologists are paid a fair bit of money to do the job that they do, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that actually you might be experiencing bipolar disorder. So there might be postnatal depression, it might be menopause, it might be a whole range of different things that could be causing us to feel the way that we do and work in the way that we do. But self-identification, I think, is valid. I think that because we have a long wait for any diagnostic processes, actually, the Equality Act, right? So if we were to talk about the Equality Act in the law, you don't need any medical diagnosis to be protected under the protected characteristic of a disability under the Equality Act, okay? So self-identification and recognizing that you have challenges and you have impairments or difficulties that make life very difficult for you over a sustained period of time, well, hey, there's self-identification here. And I do recognize that I have traits that I talk to people about in terms of ADHD. Yeah. I'm not going to go down that. Also, the fact that, here's another thing, okay? Parents of neurodivergent children, where do you think it comes from?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would advocate that parents of autistic children, for instance, are screened for autism themselves.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen because there's just not enough money in the public coffers to do that.
Yeah.
But by recognizing that your children are neurodivergent, your children are autistic, ADHD, dyspraxic, it's highly likely that genetics. Right, I'm going to say something out there, and I'll probably phrase it in the wrong way. All right. What do you think causes autism? Sex. All right.
Okay. Explain.
Genetics. Okay, we create children, right? We create children. And so a book you can read, Steve Silberman, Neurotribes. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve Silberman, Neurotribes. He visited Silicon Valley quite a few years ago, and he began his kind of research and investigation into neurodiversity. And he saw in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of autistic children here. Because there were a lot of children being identified, diagnosed, a lot of autistic children in Silicon Valley. And he kind of looked around and went, I wonder why. Because the parents who were being brought into Silicon Valley to do those highly technical jobs, to do the stuff that takes big brain power and solving big problems, probably autistic themselves. Probably a fair bit of neurodiversity themselves in that region. And I think that we see that in the UK, in certain pockets of the UK, where we have areas where you might have a lot of tech companies, areas where you might have engineering and universities. So the Silicon Gorge, let's call it, Wales, west of England, let's just say,
Thank you, Lucy. And I know at the beginning of this conversation, if you have any concerns or any awareness that you want to talk about, the first point of call is to go and see your GP. So we are kind of validating that route, but self-identifying, knowing that you have awareness of things that you find difficult in life or in the workplace.
So another thing that might help is at Inclusive Change, we've just partnered with Genius Within, and we can offer profiling through Genius Within, which is not saying here's a diagnosis, but is actually more about recognizing somebody's profile and your spiky profile, where you might be great at something but really rubbish at working out your right and left. Or you might be great at verbal reasoning or verbal comprehension, but really crap with numbers, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to get in touch, if people want to get in touch, then we can support people and point them in the direction of those assessments that are fairly easy and not very expensive to do, but they are not a diagnosis. They are about recognizing we all have different brains.
Yes. Thank you for that, Lucy. I also want to reference in the tech world, episode 23, that I had a conversation with Steve Hill of Auticon, and they specialise in supporting people and organisations in recruitment of IT specialists. And if you're in the tech world and want to find out more, go and have a listen to episode 23 and look up Auticon from a recruitment perspective.
I really highly rate Auticon, actually, the way in which they approach things, and they provide support, for instance, through using tools and strategies like Access to Work, which is just an amazing resource from DWP, Access to Work. But one of the challenges with it is it's not easy to apply for or to put in place. But Auticon, I know, in the employers that they work with, they provide that support within that program or within that recruitment process.
Fantastic. Thank you for that support and validation of that organisation, Lucy. I want to ask you what's next, but you probably can't tell us.
Let me think. Oh, crikey. Well, in the Southwest, I'm hoping to bring a brilliant conference next year, which is it's very much related to tech, actually. It's all about digital safety. And the conference itself is called Digital Wellbeing in Young People. We hosted it up in the Northeast in Durham earlier in September 2023. And we want to bring the same event to the Southwest. It is a conference which is looking at things like, how do we maintain our well-being in an online and connected world? We're looking at things like gaming and support through different channels of reaching young people through gaming communities and supporting around mental health, well-being. And I'm just going to be out there and suicide prevention. So that's essentially what we're looking at. And one of the reasons why I've kind of thrown myself into this is the company that I'm working with, Digital Safety, are just incredible. Community interest company up in the Northeast. Yeah. But neurodivergent people have a higher risk of suicide and suicidal ideation. That is a given, and we need to start talking about it. So with that one, I've been working with an organisation called If You Care Share, which is a suicide prevention organisation. If people are struggling, if they want conversation, look up If You Care Share. All right. They are amazing and do amazing work.
Thank you. I will be adding all of these to the show notes. And ultimately, Lucy, how can people get hold of you?
Inclusivechange.co.uk. You will find a get in touch page, and that is the best way to get hold of me. All my socials are on there. LinkedIn is a really good place to find me. But inclusivechange.co.uk, and then you can find everything about my world on that website.
Fabulous. And Lucy has some fantastic resources. Do go and check it out.
Yes.
I highly recommend it. And
they're free.
Absolutely.
I do have some that I ask for money for, but most of what I have on there is free. So
fantastic. I love following your journey on LinkedIn. There's always some random time that you've just done something amazing and you'll post about. And I'm usually one of the early ones.
Prime Minister. Yeah, just throw that one in there. Do you know what my life is? Life sometimes is a bit remarkable, but we can say, oh no, I can't do that, I'm far too busy, type of thing all the time. Or we can just say, oh, go on then, let's see what that's about. Let's give it a go.
I love that attitude. That's my sort of way of working, because you never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen. It's that excitement of meeting new people, having new conversations. Who knows? But equally, if you have a gut feel not to do those things, then that's okay too.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Afternoon naps for the
yes afternoon naps are the way forward. They should be like obligatory in the working environment. Go and have a nap.
Okay, please just get to the end of this episode first. I used to work for a Japanese company, and whilst we didn't have naps in the afternoon, there was all the rage about having the sleep pods so that people could go and have 10 minutes kind of rest and then be energized to keep going. Not that we advocate 24 hours working either.
No,
but our afternoon
I don't work 24 hours. I actually don't work 24 hours. I get a good 8 hours sleep. I say good. Sort of good.
Anyway, we're going off for one now. You can go to sleep now. Afternoon naps for the win.
Yes.
Thank you, Lucy. Very much appreciate your time, and look forward to collaborating with you again soon.
I hope so.
Thanks. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did recording it. I look forward to have you listening in again for the next episode. I'd really appreciate it if you could rate, review, and download this episode. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.